You have just tuned in to the latest episode of Mark of the Maker. This is Nick Rolfe, and it's my pleasure to hand it over to these fine gentlemen of the podcast. The scene-stealing co-star of the critically acclaimed film Something About Mary, Mr. Michael Birch. Retired televangelist fallen from grace, Mr. Sean Kendrick. And former world champion Pinewood Derby axle designer, Mr. Tom Crine. Lastly, hosting the show as always comfortably from his 11-car garage in a velvet smoking jacket, carbon fiber ascot, and a beautifully aged Westinghouse Louis Vuitton shower cap, Mr. Mark Steiner. Please enjoy the show.
All right. That's our man, Mr. Nick Rolfe.
I don't know if I like that at all.
Come on now.
You were in Something About Mary?
Yeah, it never gets old. You know, like Marty McFly's picture, his name from the order book is just fading away.
Oh, boy.
Nick,
all right, so
Nick who?
Yeah.
What?
Well, thanks to Nick, in spite of Birch's vitriol, thanks to Nick for another fun intro. So that was very cool of him to give us a few of those for the show. So you're listening to Mark the Maker. This is episode 15. And this time around, we're going to do some Q&A, some question and answer kind of stuff. So just sort of a roundtable episode. We got a whole bunch of questions that people from the Facebook group and from Instagram over time here have fed us a bunch of questions, and we've compiled them, and we're going to walk through a whole bunch of them tonight, at least probably what will end up to be about a couple hours worth of them, and we'll go from there. So let's make sure we got everybody here. Mr. Tom Crine, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Michael Birch, you want to say hello to the folks at home?
Hello, I am ready.
Mr. Sean Kendrick, are you here, my man?
Present and accounted for.
Okay. All right. Well, we got everybody. Let's, like I said, we're going to do some Q&A. So we have some questions. We kind of divided them up into questions from collectors and maybe fans of the show, and then some questions that are more like knife maker type questions. So maybe we'll just kind of alternate and bounce around a little bit about between those two categories of questions. That make sense?
Works for me.
Yep.
All right. Maybe the first one is kind of interesting because it's something that that we actually talked about a bit during the episode where we had Kevin on with us talking about collecting and custom knives and just how the whole process works of collecting stuff. And one of the things that we talked about was this whole instant gratification mindset. So Barry Schwartz asked the question, how do you feel about the shift to more of an instant gratification mindset, both in real life and in the knife world? And then he kind of gave his opinion about how he thinks it kind of hurts the relationship between collectors and makers. But what do you guys think?
Would that be referring to what Abby called when Mark went dark in the last episode?
What?
The kind of rant we all went in.
Rant.
She was like, Mark went a little dark there.
Me, Mark?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you, Mark.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Of course not. You blacked out. It was glory.
Yeah, it was so dark.
You went in a fugue state.
Yeah. What did I say that was dark?
I don't know. Just have to listen to the old episode.
What?
I like how you did that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well put.
Where do we want to start on the instant gratification? Which part of that? You talking about the wanting to win it and immediately sell it, or are you talking about the gratification as in kind of owed stuff, the feeling of I need that, I should get it? Where do we want to hit on that?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
Take
we
your
don't have
pick.
Barry with us, so I think we could take a swing at it however you like. I think what he's kind of pointing to or poking at is how people are interested, especially if they can get something right now.
Right.
That there's not a lot of patience for things like being on an order list or an order book or waiting for a certain specific piece to come along. Sometimes people don't have the patience to do that anymore.
I think there's pros and cons both ways. Go ahead, Michael.
No, I was going to pretty much say the same thing. There's good and bad of it. You know, there's the bad side of it is the fact that everything is moving so fast. But I mean, that's also part of social media now. It's it's this flurry of images and information that it's hard to keep track of. But at the same time, it's also what's built such a huge market.
Yeah.
So it's tough to say it's horrible, but I think it does hurt the relationship because I think it kind of makes it go away because there is no real kind of relationship. It's more of a, I want that now. Let me grab it. And if I don't, I'll move on to someone else. So you don't really spend time finding out more about the maker or the knife, which I think is part of the fun, like we talked about in the last episode. I mean, to me, I can only speak from my personal experience. To me, that's part of the fun is finding out about the knife, about it. But I think we also sort of created it in the fact that people realized if they didn't jump fast, they weren't going to get a knife. So the knives themselves, go ahead, Tom, I'm sorry.
I think we kind of created this ourselves. I mean, with the whole wait list, at least me personally, when we had a two-year wait list, you get to the end and, the people either didn't have the money then or they changed their mind on what they want and you already built what they ordered or, that kind of stuff.
Well, it seemed like in this sort of boom of tactical market, whatever you want to call it, it's like we had to do the lotteries and stuff like that, started doing lottery stuff. And if someone didn't hop on that, they wouldn't get a knife. And then so everyone was sort of searching for the next new guy at all times and buying up whatever they could because it was an instant gratification sort of thing because you could buy something from them. And it kind of created this whole cycle.
Yeah, I think the downside is sometimes people aren't willing to look for quality or, do their research and they buy whatever's available. And sometimes it's not, it's available for a reason, if that makes sense.
Very much.
Mm-hmm.
I think as far as the relationship, Facebook and some of the forums have been pretty awesome as far as allowing you to build that group and get notifications out. So I think for me, at least, I feel like it hasn't really hurt the relationship. I still have a lot of people that I talk to probably more than ever. But yeah, I just got, and I think, we may have helped create this by doing away with the work lists and stuff and, trying to feed the instant gratification just due to frustration because, like I said, when you get 2 years down the list, that person may be gone. They may not have any money. What they like is different. People just didn't have the staying power. And so that's part of the reason I feel that we've done some of the switches we have.
Well, what I'm saying is I think it created this sort of frantic buy-up of everybody that was becoming new. You wanted to be on the ground floor, someone who might end up being, have a big secondary market. So you had sort of this boom in like the Instagram and the other places where it was a lot of stuff got bought up because everyone's like, oh man, I can't get such and such. So I'm going to go over here and buy this because I can buy it. And it could possibly be the next great thing. You don't know. And so it kind of created this whole huge market in the sense of people wanting something just right now.
You should be able to kind of know if you look at the stuff and, if the quality's there or whatever,
You say that, but I mean, there's a lot of strange stuff going on right now. A lot of stuff gets bought up and it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with, perceived quality. What we think is quality is different what someone else might think. But the idea of people are just like, it's there. So, look, this guy over there bought one. So that means it must be good. It just takes one person buying something anymore for everyone else to be like, oh, that must be good, sort of thing. And it feeds that instant gratification because, oh, you can get this guy. But in the process, these people kind of forget about the person they were waiting on initially because they got something quickly down the road. And that's where I think it sometimes hurts the relationship.
True. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, one of the weird things that I think's happened, and this has been happening for a long time. We used to tease Justin Laffer about being a knife prospector, right? And kind of trying to live out on the bleeding edge of what might be coming up as far as new makers go. And he would, buy up stuff early on from guys. But Justin's certainly very much not the first guy to do that, right? But I think as time went on with some of those things and the demand started to get sort of crazy and the market got was heading toward being an overheated kind of place, I think it amplified that situation, right? That's kind of where you're going, right, Birch?
Very much. It creates markets. It very much like a stock market and some of these kind of ghost sort of things. It creates sort of this idea of something being, it could popularize something that may not have been popular without that need for an instant gratification.
Interesting.
Which, we can go into the idea of what actually is or isn't, but it's all subjective, so it's hard to actually pinpoint, what's good, what's not, big air quotes there.
Yeah.
What do you think, Sean?
Man, I don't do the instant gratification things because I'm slow. I mean, if you're into instant gratification, I'm not your guy. So, I mean, that's all I can comment on it. That's never been my thing. I've always been a patient guy. I grew up living in the ass end of nowhere. I would wait 8 weeks to get a friggin' toy out of a cereal box.
Yeah.
Well, but everything's a matter of perspective on that.
Not generally about the makers. It's more, I think, about the collectors, because surely you have the collectors that want now, and yeah, I'm with you. I'm slow. The people on my waiting list that doesn't include Nick anymore. They can attest to my slowness.
Who?
See how I work that in there? Boom.
Who's not on your list anymore?
Huh. Well, I'm just saying, the instant gratification thing, that ain't my mindset, and it's an unrealistic mindset at that, so I don't even try to comprehend it.
But at the same time, I also get it. I do get it to a degree, because I've sat around and be like, oh, I got some extra money, then hopped on Amazon or something, and, oh, look at this, or, looked at a new gun or something stupid because you had some pocket, some money burn in your pocket, or a new knife or something.
A little walking around money.
Yeah. It was like, and Mark knows what the hell I'm talking about, because he was off a couple of weeks ago and he was just sending me all sorts of shit. I'm like, you're off work right now, just looking at shit to buy.
Yeah, no, that's true. Boredom feeds desire to spend money. I think that's a fact. And, this is kind of the weird twist of the whole thing is, at some level, people's interest or desire to have a knife and not wait for it is exactly what drives secondary money, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it builds the market.
Which in the end benefits you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, lots of people will try to argue otherwise, but in the end, overall, it benefits you guys in a significant way, right?
No doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like we said, it's good and bad. It builds this whole market, but at the same time, it's also frustrating, I don't know. It's kind of crazy. It's necessary, but sometimes annoying.
Kind of a heavy question for the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're done. That was a good podcast, guys.
What's next?
Nice hearing from you, Rick Nolf.
Yeah.
So this kind of fits with it a little bit. Barry had a follow-on question about, do you think there'll be a shift back to order book kind of stuff, long wait times versus whatever we're doing now? And I don't know. I think Michael's still doing a little bit, more than a little bit of order book kind of stuff, but kind of mixed in with some other sales. And
yeah,
Sean, I don't think you're really working from an order book per se, right?
Man, I got people I want to cover because they placed orders, but it's nowhere near as organized as a book.
Right.
I got folks who I know that I'd like to make a knife for because I told them I would, and I try to keep them in mind.
Mine is literally a notebook.
So is mine.
And I think we talked about this earlier on in an earlier episode, maybe during the pricing episode or something, about the whole idea that maybe from you guys' perspective, part of the definition of, success or reaching a certain happy place or better place in your career arc is getting to the point where you're making what you want to make. And ideally that's happens to exactly be stuff that people want as well. Right.
Yeah. It's a tough balance. Go ahead, Tom. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, and I think it changes as the further along you are. Cause at first it's like, man, I can't wait to have this backlog where I don't have to worry about things. And then you get to a point where you're like, man, this backlog really sucks. I want to build what I want. And you've got the audience that you can actually do that. So it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
when I took the orders, I was making a whole different knife at that time. 2, I didn't know what was going to happen. Just kind of like, all right, I open them a little bit and here we go. And it's like, bam, and then it's a heavy weight. It's a very heavy weight to have on your shoulders because, you also have to do the shows. And okay, no, you don't have to, but I think if you want longevity and this, you kind of have to do those things. You have to keep other people interested too, not just the ones that have put a name down. Otherwise you fulfill that and everyone else has forgotten you. It goes back to that instant gratification thing.
Yeah, there's a relevance factor, right, to the show.
Yeah, exactly. If you disappear and just do nothing but those, okay, then you get all those done, and then the rest of the folks are like, oh, who the hell's this guy? We've moved on. Maybe that's not really how it would happen, but it's still a very big fear. And how fast stuff moves these days, I think it's kind of a legitimate fear. But I do want to, when this gets done, because I do love the idea of making stuff for people. It's going to be like 10 spots or 5 spots or a different version of it. Or like, okay, I'm going to make 5 of this type of knife, and just have a quick, first come, first serve on those spots, make them how you want sort of way. Let's talk about making this knife how you want. It's going to be very small snippets of an order book, not just this huge type of tomb that weighs on my shoulders. Because it is fun, like we talked about before, like working with a collector, to build something together. It's a relationship.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, right? Because it's like, one point worth clarifying for people that might not be super familiar with your work. I think a lot of people that listen are, but in your case, when you're talking about a book or taking a bunch of orders, there's no money.
No. Oh, no deposits. It was, and then it got real weird. Yeah. But yeah, no deposits. It was hey, I'm opening my books, which is just, where I write your name down, and that means I'm going to make them a knife.
Right.
They are guaranteed that I will make them a knife. That's pretty much it. There's no money involved though. But at that point, the people were selling book spots, and that got real weird. It's like, that's not
so weird.
Yeah. You're buying
nothing.
That's vaporware. Don't do that stuff. And then it puts added pressure on me that I didn't ask for, or do I want,
Well, and
it's like expectations of, hey, I bought this order. Well, that wasn't really theirs to sell.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it transitions out of, at some level, if you have an order book, it's sort of like a promise-ish kind of thing, right? Yeah. But there's no money. So if Michael Birch got hit by a truck tomorrow, it's not like his estate owes people knives, right?
No.
There's no asset involved. But if you took people's money, right, or you took deposits or half the money or some such thing from a whole bunch of people, then in the end, you owe people money back, even if you get out of the game, right? That's the reality. It's like
if you take money up front, it's like you just sold your soul.
That would be scary as hell. I would not be able to sleep at night.
Nope.
Well, man, how many guys have we seen go out of this thing because of this very same bullshit we're talking about? How many guys have we seen cash out after they fucked over who knows how many people out of how much money? It's just bad business all around.
And it's just kind of a vicious cycle. They get behind because they have to buy some stuff, or something may mess up, so then they need more order money to buy more stuff, and then it just keeps going and going until they disappear. And it just happens over and over. And the shitty part is then it kind of disenfranchises customers to custom knives, and I don't know, it hurts the whole community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think, at least for me, I'm never going back to the way I'm, the big weight, the orders.
Hell no.
A few orders that I can fill in, a few weeks or a couple months, that's one thing, but 2-3 years, no way, never.
No. Short little snippets, that's the ticket, I think. Still get to have the relationship and do stuff that people want to do and have time to do your own shit.
Yep.
More manageable.
And once again, we said that the market shifted to an instant gratification. And, I think for me anyways, it just makes sense to try to meet that. I do the have it your ways where I have heat treated blades and, basically I put them up, a lot of them, you get to choose how it's built. You know, the finish and the handle material and the sheath and all that. So it's kind of a custom, but it's more like a bench made, like per Bob Lovelace's definition, you know, but you know, I can turn them around in a few weeks and it's good. Everybody's happy.
But those are fun ways to do the same sort of thing to me. I mean, it's just kind of a different variation on it that still gets somebody what they want. And I don't know. I like that.
Yeah, it is a good way of doing it, in my opinion.
Well, and in Tom, in your case, I mean, you're a batch making kind of guy, right? So stuff like that fits with your business. I mean, with the way you like to do business anyway, right?
Right. Yeah, 100%. Because I mean, if I'm setting up to do one knife, I can do 2 knives in about the same time. And, you know, the setup and takedown, it saves a lot of time.
But it gets so boring.
Yeah.
I got to change.
That's why I have audiobooks and podcasts. But I switch it up. I mean, I do a bunch of different things all through the day. I mean, I'm constantly, like, if I'm grinding, say I've got 20 blades to grind, I'm also buffing the flats on blades and making sheaths. So I'll run in and I'll throw some Kydex in, mold the knife. While it's in the mold cooling, I'll go buff a knife. And then when I'm done with that and I load the wheels back up, then I go grind 3 or 4 blades. So
yeah, you've got good systems and good ways of doing your workflow. Mine's a shitty way.
It's getting ready to be better. I'm pretty excited. We've been tearing stuff down in the shop, moving stuff around. It's kind of slowing me down right now because, like, I'm moving all my Kydex stuff into a separate room right now. And yeah, so it's slowing me down a week or so on sheath work. But yeah, it's going to be so much better. So I don't know, I'm excited.
The CNC stuff? Is that what you're referring to?
Well, I'm finishing out the back of the shop. So we're finishing out a full break room, another office. Oh, okay. I've got a room just for Kydex. Like right now, if I want to do a Kydex sheath, I got to clean all the grit and the drill shavings, chips. I have to clean everything. It takes 30 minutes and I set my Kydex stuff out and then I'm making Kydex. But, you know, if somebody needs to drill holes and they're putting chips in my area. So yeah, it's just not good. The new room is going to be dedicated to that and that only.
So Tom, when you do the have it your way thing, you have a batch or a group, right, of some number, like 8 or 10 or 20 or I don't know, some kind of number, right?
Yeah, correct. Usually about 7 or 8.
Okay. And so you take money somewhere along the way, right? Do you do it? You take money when the people claim the spots?
No, not usually. So usually I take the money on the have it your ways when they're ready for sheath work. So if they're going out for leather, it's about a week to 2 weeks, depending on what Butch has going on. I'll take money then. And then also if it's ready for me to do the Kydex, I'll take the money then also because usually if I'm doing Kydex, it's less than a week turnaround. And yeah, at that point here lately, it's been about that, but normally it's a few days. And that way I have the money when Butch comes because I got to pay him for stuff. And then I don't have to wait. And it's as soon as I get it back from him, I can send it.
Okay. I didn't know what the timing was on all that. I was thinking, well, does that put you in like a mini version of feeling that pressure of having people's money, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess. I mean, if I have, when it's like this, it's not so bad because I know the knife's made, and I just have to get it back from Butch and get it turned around. But if I had your money for like 2 years, then that's probably not a good thing.
Yeah, right. No, big difference between.
Well, and it also, like on the books, like Michael said, it's vaporware. I've got your name and that's it. It's not, I'm going to build you a knife. That's the whole reason of doing it. But I haven't set a date. I haven't taken your money. I haven't done anything. So if I fall over tomorrow, it's no big deal. I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Right.
And also, if we find out you're a big old asshole that's ripping people off, no, we're not going to make you a knife.
Well, that's not very nice, Birch.
Well, you know what I mean? It's like almost like
I'm just teasing.
Like it's some sort of, you've got to, like we're, no, if you're, we find out that something, you're, doing some messed up shit or did something weird, no, don't have to.
Yeah. We have the right to refuse service.
That's the nice way of saying that.
Well, yeah. And lots of stuff happens, right? as time passes.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
People lose interest. People have some kids. People's life changes and stuff. All kinds of crazy stuff happen.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Let's talk about, that one kind of turned into a knife maker question, but this is a question that I see come into our Instagram account actually fairly regularly, but someone asked the question, David on Instagram asked about recommended books for new makers. And I know we talked about some of those when we did your individual episode, but can we rattle off a few of the books that we recommend new makers pick up and use as reference when they're kind of getting started?
Knife Making by Loveless Moran and
Barney.
Barney.
Richard Barney, yes.
Yep. And his section is really good because it actually tells you how to make them without the tools. I mean, it's all hand tools.
No power tools.
That's exact that section is what allowed me to make my first knife.
Yeah, me too. Well, that and the Tim McCrate book.
Yeah, that's another good one. The David Bowie book is awesome.
It's fantastic. It's really good.
Step by step. I guess we should give the full name.
Yeah, step by step knife making. You can do it.
Yeah,
David Bowie.
And what is it? The $50?
$50 knife shop. Wayne Goddard.
Man, that one's worth about a fourth of what you paid for the book.
Are those getting expensive?
No, I just didn't think it was.
Oh, is that a joke?
No,
that was a Tang joke, Birch.
I thought that was just bombing a dad joke there.
Really?
I thought it was helpful. I went through the $50 knife shop articles as they came out every month in Blade, and it really eased some of my trepidations about getting into the whole thing and needing all of this equipment and all of this extraneous shit. And that series of articles show me, hey man, you can get by on the cheap. You can make this work if you're willing to put in the effort and labor.
Yeah, I think
it depends on. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I think it depends on how you're coming at it. I think the Barney section of the first book was much better put together towards that. And, I mean, I don't know. It just seemed like there was some crazy information in that when I was reading it.
Well, I'm not saying it's better put together. I'm saying for me personally, it helped to take away some of the trepidations I had. And that's to the good. That serves its purpose. Yeah. But now the Barney section of the Loveless book is fantastic. And the knife he makes is exemplary. I mean, even if he had used power tools on it, it would have been exemplary. And the fact that it was done with files and sandpaper is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Well, I think if you're just going to hop into it and just be like, I just want to make a knife, not as like, I want to be a knife maker. I think that $50 is great. If you want us to be like, I just want to make a knife, it works for that. And if you want to make the folding knives, the tactical knife book by Bob is the best.
Bob T's book, hell yeah.
Well, and there's three of those. Ron Lake and a couple other guys wrote one on lockbacks, and then there's the slip joint one also. Those are all out of print and
the slip joint by Bose and Shadley and Davis was very good. Or was it just Shadley and Davis?
There's three of them. I don't think it's Bose. Hold on, I got it right here. Hold on.
I know Shadley and Davis.
I never got that book.
Shadley and Davis.
Okay.
Forward is by Tony Bose.
Okay, that's what was throwing me. And that's a really comprehensive book. It's really good.
Yeah. Huh. I'm going to have to pick that up now.
It's worth it.
You don't have that one?
I don't. I never got that one. I'm going to go to Amazon right now before this podcast comes out.
Another book is The Knives and Knife Makers by Sid Latham. That's got a good section by Bob Dozier. Lots of cool information on the old knives from the 70s too.
That's just a great book to have if you're getting into collecting or making. Just buy it. It's awesome.
Yeah. One of the things that I read somewhere early on was, get everything you can and take the good from whatever you can find, and so, there's so much stuff out there right now. There's so many good books. I recommend, start with the ones we listed and then buy the other ones and see what's good, what you like, what you don't.
Yeah. The best way really is go into the forums, go into Usual Suspects, go into Blade forums, and just start looking at all the old shop, stuff.
Steel Dust Junkies on USN is a great place.
Every single bit of information you need to know is in there. It may take some looking, but if you really want to find the information, start looking because it's there.
And if it's not, you can ask.
Yeah. But I bet it's been asked before.
Yeah, but then Birch will show up and tell you to search for it.
Yeah, use a search function, but like you get, if you're on USN Steel Dust Junkies, you'll get like people like Tom Mayo answering your questions.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. That's pretty crazy awesome.
But don't hop in and don't look and automatically go, what's the best grinder to get?
Yeah.
Do the searching. Look.
At least a little legwork.
Due diligence.
Uh-huh.
Sean, that $50 knife shop book you were talking about, the point you were trying to get to was, I think sometimes people, when they see you guys do some kind of shop tour video, or if they visited a knife maker shop before, they're kind of they're walking into a building or a room that, is like a workspace that has a giant air compressor and a bunch of, electrical run all over the place. And, oh, by the way, somewhere between $10,000 and $100,000 worth of gear, right?
Yeah.
And so you're like, oh shit, if I want to be a knife maker, I got to somehow figure out a way to front all of this shit. And
you do, because that's how we all started.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the point Sean was trying to make about that $50 knife shop book was it showed you that you could start smaller. Is that where you're going, Sean?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that was actually sarcasm I used.
I smelt it from here.
Oh, I smelt it all right.
Yeah, I mean, started with a file and sandpaper. That's how I started. And that's
first 13 knives I made.
What's the old saying that's probably not PC anymore? It's not the Indian, not the arrow, it's the Indian.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're supposed to say that anymore. I already know what the hell.
I think it's okay.
Great. Here come the complaints, Birch.
Mm-hmm.
Bring them.
Well, I mean, it's true though. I mean, you hear that a lot, and I totally get what Sean's saying and what you're saying. But a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, if I had your shop, I could make knives like you too." Come on
down.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll have hamburgers after him. We'll look at what you done.
Well, I mean, the point is, none of us started with this stuff,
No.
I've been working my ass off for 25 years to get where I'm at, and I still don't have a shop like most people.
Same.
None of us have the shop we want in our heads.
Well, no.
It can be the biggest shop in the world. We're still going to be like, man, I need this and that.
If only.
Mm-hmm. And I'm very bad about that myself. I'm very impetuous with the buying of new shit and be like, oh, this will make me better. And realizing it's just me, not the gear. I'm bad about that.
Hey, well, man, maybe one of these days you'll get that magic gadget. Who knows?
I will. Then I'll be like, I feel like I'm cheating now. Throw it away.
Wrong.
Yeah, there's gold at the end of that rainbow, my man.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Kind of fits with that. One of the new maker questions that we had was resources for shop items, everything from abrasives to tools. What are your favorite tools? Some of that feels a little bit like some stuff we talked about before with, do you go find a mentor to learn from for a little bit, and you can pretty quickly figure out what you're going to need as far as essential things, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, your best resource is Google. I mean, we didn't have that when we started. I mean, there's everything out there. And I think probably in the forums, there's like, I don't know, let me look on USN right now. Does Steel Dust Junkies have a sticky at the top?
They used to, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, first one is where do you buy materials and supplies? And there's 5 pages. I'm thinking that's a pretty good place to start.
Right.
But I think they're asking personally, where do we buy? Who are our suppliers that we like? Is that kind of what they're asking?
Okay. True Grit.
That's part of it. And I have to say, I think some of the folks that are asking these kind of questions, I think, are new enough to it that for us, it seems obvious. Yeah, go on USN and look in Steel Dust Junkies. that's the obvious answer, right? And, oh, I can't search. I have to pay for a subscription. Well, you're going to pay less for a subscription than you are for a book, right? So go get the info.
If you're a new maker, subscribe, become a member on USN. There's so much information there, you know. I mean, it is a lot of good people, you know. And as far as what we use, we can give a list. I mean, maybe that's something we can post in the show notes or something, or on the Facebook group.
Man, it'd be a long ass list.
Mm-hmm. Nobody has everything. That's for sure. So we kind of skip around and buy from different people, different stuff, pops, you know, for belts, True Grit sometimes for belts.
Depends on what you're getting.
And there's a lot of new belt makers now, which is kind of crazy. You know, I've heard of like 5 different belt makers that never were around when we were starting out. It was like 3M and, you know,
3M and Normies. That's it.
Like Battle Belts or something.
Yeah, there's Battle Abrasives or something, and I don't know, just a bunch of them these days. And I have no idea how well they work.
Me either.
No clue.
Yeah. I would look in the back of Blade magazine. That's what I did when I started. You know, some of the old good ones are gone. Sheffield, I think, is pretty much gone. Koval's gone. These are the ones that when we started.
Now, what's going on with Sheffield? I ordered from them just a few months ago.
Well, Ann died.
Yeah, I know that, but I ordered, and her son took my order. They got me my stuff.
No, some people have been having some issues. I haven't ordered anything recently.
I got you. I mean, I could see that, dude. I mean, Ann shouldered a huge load there.
She always answered the phone, and I don't think she liked me at all.
She did. I'm sure she did. I'm sure how she was.
Yeah.
Ann was a hoot.
Yes, she was. She is a character.
She was one of the
What do you want? I'd be like,
I'd like to order some belts, please.
Yeah.
May I purchase some Micarta?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be down to put a list of who I use. I mean, I order most of my stuff from 5 or 6 places, so it's not that big of a list.
USA Knife Supply is a good one. They've gotten a pretty good
Macecraft
stuff. Macecraft for a lot of your phenolics.
G10. Jantz.
Yeah, Jantz. Oh, yeah. I don't order as much.
MSC.
I think the one where we could probably really help folks, that's a durable thing that we could post in the group is, Tom, grab some of the books we mentioned earlier, snap a picture, you know what I mean? That way people know what books to look for. And some of these other things, I mean, you know, these are suppliers that you use, and I think, you know, we can suggest some names and stuff, but I think, like I said earlier, to us, it's kind of obvious. Go to Steel Dust Junkies on USN, and there's a wealth of information from some of the world's best knife makers. But I think there's a lot of people that just don't know to look there. So I think even
Blade Forums has a lot of info too. I haven't been on Blade Forums in forever.
I haven't been there forever, but I used to before I went to USN.
It was awesome.
Where I spent a ton of time in the shop area there.
Yep.
Yeah. And a ton of time in Don Fogg's forum back in the day.
Wow. That's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, you're old, Birch. Damn.
No, we've been doing this for a while. I mean, seriously, it's kind of crazy. What about the next part of the question? Favorite and essential tools. You guys have favorites? Essentials?
You know that...
man, now a surface grinder is essential to me at this point.
You have it set up with a belt?
Is yours down?
Oh, yeah, of course. No, it is not. Don't put that shit on me, man. Don't even go talking like that. I hope you're
Jinx
knocking
monkey.
on wood.
Yeah, I've got to get mine changed back over to a stone, and then because I've got 2, and get the other one back to a belt. So I'd love to fine tune with the stone and get the.
That's the magic.
Oh yeah, it'd be awesome.
Water cooled stone. That's such a nice finish.
Yeah, get it flatter than flat.
Yeah, I think my favorite tools are my 2 original Dozier grinders. It's like I've not found a grinder that does what they do. And I've been using them day in and day out for 20 plus years. Pretty crazy.
Well, and I think the funny part, the thing I noticed about when I've been to Michael's shop on a few occasions now is there's some very go-to little small cheapo hand tool kind of stuff, right? Like very specific things. Like Michael's got these little driver tools, right? Like a little small screwdriver thing. And they're the kind of things that are like, damn, where is that one thing that I need, right? Because it's like he uses it all the time. And what are those? Those are from Lowe's or Home Depot.
Yeah, my Lowe's drivers. Like they don't make anymore.
Oh, the blue Cobalt drivers.
Cobalt drivers.
Oh man, I've still got a couple sets of those sitting around. Those were decent little drivers for the money.
Oh yeah, they're like $6, but they, if you drop them on something, you're not gonna, they're plastic and rubber. They didn't, if you're doing shit all day long, you don't really want something heavy. So I like those things.
Don't drop them.
Well, shit, man, it happens.
Yeah. Oh, I've got copper drivers or brass or Zerk. I love them.
I've got them, but I don't use them much. One, I can't get much grip on them. The ones I have.
So it seems like a lot of guys want to go with really small barrels on their drivers, and that's the wrong direction.
Small what?
You lose the barrel on your driver. If you go with a really small diameter, you lose all your grip, your surface area. And they don't spin really well because they're lightweight. Most of mine are 3/8 or so, and they're heavy. And then I've got one that one of my customers made me that's like 1/2 inch. Dude, that thing is awesome. It's 1/2 inch brass and it spins like crazy, and you can put some force on it.
Well, I don't need a ton of force. I just need to.
What about when they come back and the Loctites? You got to take them apart, and the Loctite's like stuck.
Yeah, I can figure that shit out. But just for, when I have to take stuff apart and put it back together a million times, I don't want to be fatigued by some heavy weight in my hand. So I'm perfectly fine with something pretty lightweight. But I know there's like Mark was saying, we all have these, specific type of tools that are kind of unique, or I don't know. Like I've got a little piece of micarta that's just a black linen that's 1 inch by 2 inch. And if I lose it, I get all pissed off. and I don't know why.
Right.
But
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. They're like little talisman.
They are really
things, right. Like those Cobalt drivers, they're like important to you. They're not like anything fancy or whatever, but it's like you rely on them being there.
And I've had some of this shit since day one, and I go crazy if I don't have them, if I can't find it, because I use it all the time.
Right. Like I was at Rick Hinder's place one time when he was in the old shop, and he has like a little push stick that he uses, and like
can't grind without it.
Like he won't start. He can't grind without it. It's really funny. It's like, it seemed like every time I was there and he was going to go grind a blade, it was like he's running all over the place. Where's that little push stick? Everybody's laughing and, but like he can't function without that little push stick.
Yeah. Well, there's a set of pliers that I think if you're making folders, you got to get. They've got a rubber coat, not a rubber coating, but like a rubber layer on them. And they are awesome.
Rio Grande.
Rio Grande. They're awesome. I love those things. I use them all the time, especially for stop pin, because stop pin shouldn't be loose. It should be snug. So you kind of have to get in there and pop it out, pop it back in, all this stuff. And it's awesome. Also for thumb studs, when you need to tighten them without marring them.
Yeah, I was going to say thumb studs are perfect for that.
Oh, they're awesome for that. Get a couple sets of those. They're great. It's a great handy little tool for anyone making folders.
So these are little non-marring pliers that have coating on them.
Parallel jaws, so they're not really a pliers. I mean, they are, but they're not like a regular set of pliers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like the scissor type of whatever they're called. And McGinnis actually put me onto these damn Harbor Freight scissors that I just started. I went and bought a pair. They're like 12 inches long. You can cut your foil without cutting your fingers. Should I wear gloves? Yes, but I don't think about that until halfway through the cutting process.
There's blood on the ground.
Yep. And you cut your sandpaper, one cut. They're awesome. There's a bunch of these little tools that, I bet we can come up with a whole list of them if we wanted to.
I've got a little screw holder thing that Brownells, I don't know if they still sell it or not. Basically, it's a little slide apart spring clip, and you just drill a clearance hole for the screw, and you slide the screw through it, put it all back together, and you grind your screw down.
Really?
It's a simple
Nice.
little tool. I crank out screws all day on it real quick.
Nice.
Here's a little tip if you're doing folders and you're trying to finish like the screw heads. If you're doing 256, they fit in the Fordham quick change lathe handpiece without anything. You just put them in there and spin them.
Yep.
Works really good.
I use a hand drill all the time. I mean, I do
too.
Just got a new one.
Yeah.
Got up to the 20 volt, pretty special. Just a DeWalt cordless, whatever. But man, you will use that thing all the time. Spinning screw, spinning screw heads or reshaping pivot heads or all kinds of crap. I'll use it. I'll actually,
hand drill.
What's that?
Hand drill? You mean power drill?
Yeah,
like a cordless.
Not
Are you worried you're going to fatigue yourself?
What's that?
I went with the 14. Well, I actually might have a 12 volt. I figured I didn't need the 20 for spinning stuff.
Man, I got the arms to hold them up though, so it's okay, man.
I don't know, dude. You can't hold a driver.
That's true. Good point. Touche. Mr. Crime. But no,
sorry.
His arm strength is great. His hand strength is weak. Okay.
Yeah.
He's like,
make your way over to the gun show.
He's like
Tom.
a T-Rex.
But
That's what I want to picture when he's making knives now.
Those transfer punches that you can get from Grizzly or Harbor Freight or something, that real cheap set. I don't use them for transfer or anything. I wrap them with sandpaper, put them in my little hand drill, and then I get into all the crevices with that. The stop pin locations, I get in there and clean up all that so it looks all pretty and stuff, and unidirectional, and sand everything with those. Spyderco holes, use a bigger one, wrap up sandpaper, get in there and do that too. Handy little things.
All right.
Yep. Good question, Jeff.
Well, that's pretty good. Hopefully that's helpful to people. Let's see what else we got here. Robert Porter, our friend Robert Porter, asked about production companies picking up your knives. What's that process look like? I think all you guys have been through that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
So, Sean, why don't you start with that? I know you had you still do have a production deal for some stuff, right?
Yeah. As far as I know, everything's still moving along. I get a royalty check every 6 months. So.
That's a good sign.
But now, the guys I work with, the folks at Hallmark who do the Bad Blood stuff, they're a smaller company. It was a really personal deal. I mean, basically a handshake deal. He walked up, I like your stuff. I think we can do something with it, and I think people will want it. Would you like to work with us? And I said, well, let me think about it. And eventually I got back with them, and that was that. It was all pretty easy.
Did you say Hallmark, like the card?
It's Hallmark Cutlery, but it's not the same company. They actually used to own. Okay. They're the folks who owned United before they went under.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, man, it was kind of weird because a lot of the knives that I grew up with, they brought into the country and sold them. And the owner, the current owner's father, actually designed a few of them.
Huh.
That I owned. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it was interesting. I actually went into the basement of one of Jake, the president of the company. His father went into the basement of their home, and they had overstock Lord of the Rings stuff to the rafters. It was almost surreal, man.
Man, when you said you went into
That's pretty cool. We
basement,
talked about
I didn't know where you were going with that.
It's me, buddy. It's untelling.
Well, that too, but so that's a bunch of the United Cutlery stuff that we talked about in the personal.
Yeah,
episodes,
he actually
right?
designed the scorpion dagger I like so much with the little push knife in it.
That's awesome.
It's so cool.
That's
David
some
Hall.
synchronicity right there.
Man, I'm telling you, that's the story of my life. The wheels move within the wheels within the wheels.
What about you, Tom? How did that whole process happen for you?
So, the first one I ever did was a dogfish, and I had the design, and I thought it was good. So, when I had worked with A.G. Russell, I actually had made contacts with CRKT. So I actually called them and approached them, and talked to Doug and sent him an email, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we like this. Let's do it." And literally right there, we agreed to do it. At first he was like, it's got to be special, whatever. And I sent him the picture and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're going to do it." After that, just working with the different companies, it's, you submit designs, and if they like it, you go forward. It's usually pretty painless. We have meetings at Blade and some other stuff, and yeah, that's about it.
What about you, Birch?
I found out you have to work at it. You have to go. You kind of got to track those guys down.
True.
If you want to do it, and I told myself every year, I need to be doing Blade show, and I think that's a really good time to kind of see some of those guys, set up meetings and stuff, and you just got to work at it and talk to them, and because there's a bunch of people submitting designs all the time to a lot of these guys and wanting to work with them. So you got to try to do something special, see if it works out. Now, that's not the same as like the pay to play type of production stuff. I think that's a whole different thing. Yeah,
that's a whole different breed of cat there.
I think we'll get to that with one of our questions, won't we?
We want to wait and get to it then, or talk now?
Doesn't matter to me.
No time like a present, says I.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So pay to play. What are you talking about? Explain.
Well, that's your kind of overseas manufacturing that's going on. That's gotten real popular. There's a lot of knife makers doing it. And I'm not quite sure how to say it. Riati. I've heard it 3 different ways. Riat. Your Reich, your We. Like We seems to do a ton of stuff for people. And there's just a ton of knife makers that are basically, you submit a design, I think you pay them and they make the design. It's kind of a different type of collaboration, I guess. But I don't know if that's quite the right word for it.
Yeah, I don't know that that's the right word. It's more, you're outsourcing a design, I think.
Yeah. But the thing is, these companies are making quality knives. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, they're not messing around.
So some of those guys are,
They're not messing around.
No, man, they're not. It's gotten pretty scary, pretty crazy.
Yeah, so 2 different kinds of things, right? I mean, the stuff that we started out talking about were like Tom said, you shop a design to CRKT, and that becomes a SKU or a part number in a catalog, and they sell it, and then you get paid like
Correct.
a royalty, basically, right?
Yeah,
which is the same as Sean's Bad Blood deal and your Boker thing or Spyderco stuff, right, Mike?
Spyderco, yeah. So whereas this thing is more like, I have a design and it's almost like an outsourced but sold by you kind of production, mid-tech-ish kind of thing. It became the new mid-tech, kind of.
Yeah, you basically are paying someone to make your product line, and it's not branded by whoever makes it. It's branded by whatever you put on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the scary part is some of the stuff is being made and sold sort of as customs, which is the real scary part of it.
Yeah.
Or as, slapping a different brand name on it, so you may have, so-and-so, knife, whatever. I'm not going to make up a name, but it could be made by one of these companies. And that's where it gets a bit muddied and a bit scarier.
Well, and we talked about this a little bit, maybe danced around a little bit in one of the earlier episodes, and that is be truthful with people, right? I mean,
yeah, don't be lying about where shit's made, because really no one's going to care. No one's not buying the knives that are being made for these knife makers or whatever. So I don't know. And the weird thing is, I think you can send these guys just a design. I don't think anything has to really work.
Correct. They'll engineer it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Which and now.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say that it was also part of, when I started looking around and I bought my CNC, that was the part of the reason for it, was seeing where things were going and seeing the limitations of what I was able to do and thinking, if I don't do something, I'm going to be behind on production companies, which is way scary. And some of these production, these companies are making knives that were like open bids type level knives when we were starting out.
Yeah,
which is some crazy manufacturing.
There's like $600 plus Chinese knives and they're selling. It's crazy. They're, like I said, they're not messing around.
No, and we need to be paying attention to what's going on and do what we can to secure yourself as a custom maker.
Oh, yeah. Well, now that leads us into a question that I wanted to cover here, and it's from Mike Anson. With the proliferation of increasingly high-quality production in mid-tech knives, how will the custom knife makers set themselves apart in the future?
Excellent question.
Yeah, and now personally, I think the way that we'll set ourselves apart is we can just do stuff that production companies can't, at least for the time being. We can prototype almost instantly and have new stuff out. We can modify designs on the fly. But then that may change also.
So you're saying you and Birch can do stuff instantly?
Well, now, man, I can change a blade shape instantly. I'm not going to finish the motherfucker up instantly.
Right.
But it can go from being
the prototyping. Hell yeah, it's the finish work that gets me every single time. But no, I think the problem is they're getting super fast with that. And it used to be, so it used to be back in the day that like with flippers, when flippers started out being, started being kind of the go-to tactical folder. When it first started, it was like the companies didn't have a handle on how to make a flipper. Mm-mm. And it was like, the companies, they just can't make a custom flipper like custom makers. And that's what set kind of the customs apart. And then it became a thing, they kind of got that down. Then it turned into they don't use, the same materials. Look at these fancy materials. Now the companies are using the exact same materials that we're using. Same companies, same people, which is great for, our friends that are making that sort of stuff. But it's harder and harder to differentiate, and they're making them quicker and quicker.
I think the biggest way we can set ourselves apart is our relationships with our customers. I really do. I mean,
yeah,
exactly.
I really think
that's the point when you.
That's it. I mean, we sell ourselves as much as we sell our knives, and I think if you're building two people are building a quality product, the same quality price point, they're going to want the one where they have the better relationship and experience.
Well, yeah, I think the personal relationship, it all comes back down to that, is having the relationship with your knife maker and your customer and knowing you're buying from somebody, someone someone you enjoy talking with and that enjoys knives as much as you do. Yeah. So I think you're right. I think it comes down to the personal relationship. And that goes back to, I think, doing the shows and being active, and not hiding away and stuff. You've got to be out there.
Agree, 100%.
Yeah.
But it is getting scary out there. I mean, what do you think of all this stuff, Mark? I mean, as a, collector, more of a collector type of thing.
Well, I think it's an interesting thing because I think there are a significant portion of knife buyers that don't care about a relationship with the maker. Right. And I mean, I think that's where things like these very high quality production knives, regardless of where they come from, whether it's Italy or China or whatever, I think that's where there's foothold for those kind of products, is with people who are looking at more of like a commodity thing that's probably in some cases a lower price point, although to Tom's point, some of them are pretty damn expensive anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, it's that instant gratification, right?
Exactly. I can get it right now. So yeah, I might not know the guy that put that knife together, whose hands touched it, but it's cool and it looks nice and it works good and it might have good edge geometry and, it's got some innovation and I got it for $300. That's a winner for a lot of people. Right. And I don't blame them.
Dude, I think
there's something very cool about that.
My son.
Yeah. They're using good steels, Yeah.
My son had a blasted blade. He spent all of his money and came home with like 13 or 14 knives and they were all made in China. And the crazy thing is there was like, or Italy or China, there was some stuff that was like $30 with D2 blades, good design flippers. They worked, stuff like that. And it's just like, wow. I mean, geez. So
yeah, it's crazy the price that some of the stuff is able to get down to. The price point some of that stuff can get to is absolutely just mind-boggling.
Yeah, I don't even understand how they do it, man. Honestly,
it's numbers, it's mass volume, but still, it's still crazy.
I mean, I just bought a plate of M390, and the stuff was like $34 a pound or something like that.
Yeah,
pretty crazy.
Yeah, but I think a company like Reich or We or somebody like that, when they buy it, they're buying thousands of pounds, right? I mean, so economies of scale.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. One of the interesting parallels with this whole thing, I think, and I think parts of the knife industry have been approaching this a little bit like the example I'm going to give, right? I work for an American automotive manufacturer, which really today is a very global automotive manufacturer. And, the American auto industry went through the whole thing where Japanese cars came into the US market and lots of people kind of poo-pooed the whole thing and their little cars and their junk and whatever. They're not good like an American car. And, time goes by, and, before you know it, somebody's eating your lunch. Right. And so it goes back to the point that you talked about earlier, Michael, right? Where you better pay attention, because if you kind of brush the dirt off your shoulder and say, no, that's coming from someplace else and that's not legit, real good stuff. Well, I don't know.
Bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody's eating your lunch before you know it.
People are buying it. Yeah. So you've got to pay attention to this stuff. And I don't know. I got real scared about seeing what was starting to be made and done, and be like, I've got to step up my game, or at least try to figure out how to.
Right.
So it's interesting to see. It's almost like we're reaching some sort of like knife singularity point, and it's weird. And Sean, I bet you know what I'm talking about there, don't you?
No.
The wheat chuck. It's like the artificial intelligence, what they say when they become, when you have it reached a point where they're smarter than humans, it's a singularity. It's a point called a singularity. And I feel like we're getting to this weird sort of odd point, like we're all racing to it. And I don't know what that point is, but it's kind of crazy where we're going.
I think for anyone, though, any business, it's always good to look forward and try to improve your product or improve your customer care or whatever. Anytime you become static, you die. And that's in anything. So
no, it's good to have that pressure of wanting to be better, but sometimes it's also can go, we can get in our own heads a little bit too much. And I think we're all aware of that and probably get to that point sometimes. But yeah, we have to be aware of what's going on.
That's a good question by Mike. Mike Anson.
Now, do any of you guys have any plans to do that sort of thing?
I do not.
Now, why not? Is there a reason for it, or?
I just don't have any plans on doing that. If I want to have a production knife made, I don't want to ship and market it myself. I would rather work with someone like Columbia River Knife and Tool, who will work hard to market it. And basically I take the design and I get a royalty. I feel like, to me, that's a good way to do it. And then, I've recently got my CNC also, and I want to try to up my production using that. And I think that'll keep me plenty busy.
Well, I think the point of some of those is they don't have to do anything. You do sort of a deal with, I think some of the guys are having like, some dealers, bigger dealers work with them, and they just basically set it up and go from there. I think that's kind of the point of why some of these guys do it, that it's little work for, basically design it and sell.
And I think that's awesome for people. For me, it just doesn't feel like what I want to do. Somehow it just doesn't.
Well, and
that's just me at this point. I don't know. Maybe I'll wake up tomorrow and feel different, but right now to me, it doesn't feel like what I set out to do.
And I'm the same way, and I don't know why. It's like I don't have an answer for it. I don't really want to do it, but I don't have a good answer for why.
Yeah.
What about you, Sean?
Man, if I was going to do a production knife, I would go about it the way Tom said. Let a high-quality production company handle it, get my royalty, and that's that. Otherwise, my time's better put toward making my own sole authorship stuff. That's just the long and the short of it.
Yeah.
That's the best usage of my time.
That's just interesting. It's you see a ton of makers do it, and I don't really want to do it, but I don't have a real reason behind it.
But maybe that's, I kind of view us as being kind of older school type makers, I feel like the three of us got into this because we have a passion for knives, not because we want to get rich, if that makes sense. I mean, I want to get rich, but so far that isn't happening so fast. But
yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say there?
Yeah,
I'm not
very much
eloquent with that, but
dude, I get what you're saying.
I understand. Yeah, it's sort of I don't know.
Well, and I hate the whole idea of the starving artist. That whole mentality pisses me off really bad, and I refuse to do that. But at the same time, this just feels right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think I've said this many times to many people. I had the same poster of a Porsche on my wall as a kid too. Just because I chose to be a knife maker didn't mean I chose to be poor. I'm not scared of money.
Yep.
I just sometimes am slow to make it.
Well, some of it I think has to go to the question, at the risk of oversimplifying it, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right. And I mean, I think if you're on an aggressive path, maybe not even aggressive, just maybe a business focused path, those kind of deals probably make a lot of sense, right? I mean, sure. if your objective is to grow your brand, sell a lot of product as far to to try to help create a broad customer base, that's smarter than banging out 50 knives a year, right?
I never said I was smart.
Very much.
No one's going to accuse me of that, but yeah, 100%.
But it depends on what you want it, who and what you want to be, right? I mean,
yep,
very much.
And I mean, I'll use Rick Hinder as an example, just because I know Rick, and that his intent, I think, all along was to grow that business, make a production style product. And, he gets to play and grind some blades and do some stuff. And, today there's a monster shop down there with a whole bunch of employees and a huge amount of equipment. And, it's like a big machine making knives today. And, I think if that was the focus you guys had at the same level and pointed in the same direction, there's no reason you couldn't do something the same way. But choosing not to is something that, I think you have to recognize, right?
Oh no, that's a direction I do want to head towards. I want to, the V4. I'd like to do more of that, and at some point, I'd have to get someone in here to help me, and hopefully, that grows into something more.
But
that's sort of the dream, to be able to produce some really cool knives, to get them in the hands of lots of people. It'd be awesome.
But that's you producing them in your shop,
Yeah,
and to me that's the difference. And not to oversimplify things, but Mark, you said that, if we wanted to do what Rick did, we would, but I don't know that many people can. What he's done is pretty amazing.
No question about that. The idea of doing that stuff, almost completely in-house, right? I mean, that's a big deal.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think you just meant working towards it type of thing. And I'm just talking like you said, it's a good way to really have, like we've talked about, walk to the mailbox money, but I look at it, I'm like, that really should be a good business decision to do that type of thing. And I see why makers do it, but I just don't really have a tangible reason why I don't. And it's just kind of odd.
Well, if your real passion is, doing what you're doing today, then using the kind of approach that you guys have been using makes sense because, I know, okay, so you outsource a knife and it gets made offshore somewhere. And I have a feeling that there's a little more to it than send off a design and collect paychecks. Right?
No, I think you got to put some money up front. And do that sort of
If you're going to sell it yourself, you got to sell it yourself. You got to market it. You got to, you know what I mean? Those things aren't, those things aren't without significant time commitment. Now, maybe they could be done by an employee or by a marketing person for that matter that isn't really a knife person at all. But at the same time, there's significant work behind some of that stuff versus a production.
But it's still easier than
right. Like a CRKT deal or a Boker deal or a Spyderco deal. Okay, well, those are, you fire it off and, you're not going to make as much money per unit, but it's also out of your hands once it's gone, right? And it just shows up in the form of money.
But the difference is, that they choose you, and on this, you sort of choose them. So it's sort of like it doesn't, anybody can do it sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like if you want to do it, all you got to kind of do is, I think, come up with money and send them design, and they're going to do it. And I'm sure they turn away people and all this stuff, but it seems like they make pretty much a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
The scary part is when it comes back looking nicer than the custom version of it. That's where it gets real weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe that's what I'm scared of.
I think on the front end, even on a regular production deal, there's a bunch of hustle if you want to do a bunch of them. Right?
Oh yeah. Oh hell yeah. But at the same time, you're still selling a product and not having to just make it and sell it. You're just doing half of that. So
right.
It's interesting. And I see the allure of it, I guess, of why makers do it.
Well, it's a business allure without question, right?
Oh yeah. I'm sure.
Okay. Interesting conversation. Next one, I think from the knife maker side, this one's written in from a guy down in Gentry, Arkansas. No, Tom Crine asks the panel, "What are your favorite steels and why?" And I know a bunch of other people actually asked that question too, but I had Tom's name written down.
That's a great question.
I think I swear I can hear off in the distance Tom patting himself on the back.
Oh man! For whatever reason, my mic was on mute. I had a leg cramp. The last couple minutes, I didn't catch anything.
Oh boy! Favorite steels and why, Tom? What are your favorite steels and why?
So I mean, it's a funny question for me because I don't consider myself like a steel junkie.
It's an extremely funny question for you since you asked it. But go ahead.
I know. But I'm curious for the other guys. Me personally, I'd be totally fine with a 01 knife or a 1095 knife most of the time. Simple steels are great. But my all-time favorite steel is D2. It's one of those steels that doesn't get a lot of respect, but for me, and I've worked hundreds and hundreds of blades and I've used a lot of them, it seems to work really well, holds an edge well, pretty easy to care for. I don't live in a crazy harsh environment, but with a little care, it holds up well. People say it takes a crappy edge and holds it forever. They probably don't know how to sharpen a knife.
Sharpen it, yeah. Man, I always thought D2 took a hell of an aggressive edge.
Takes a great edge. I've
gritty.
It's toothy. It's yeah. But
we've talked about this before.
I can make it top hair. I mean, it's not what I'm going to choose probably to carve wood, but for all around, it's a good go-to.
Tom Crine, are you sure we didn't answer this whole question before, or do we just talk about D2?
I don't know.
I think he's talked about D2 a few times. Now, let's all raise our hands if you thought he was going to say D2.
Yeah. My hand's in the air.
My hand's up. I know that doesn't really work.
So it wasn't a surprise?
No.
No, not even a little bit.
What about you guys? I did just buy some M390, which is kind of cool. And I have been using a lot of XHP lately.
I've been thinking about picking up some XHP.
It's fantastic.
I thought it was all right. I didn't think it was.
What didn't you like about it?
I didn't think it was any better than CPM 154.
Dude, we can't be friends anymore, but whatever.
I'm sorry.
Just kidding. Yeah.
D2 sucks.
What?
Oh, I didn't say anything. I think my mic went weird on me there.
It was the wind whistling in the background.
Mm-hmm.
I like
now, Sean,
CPM 154.
It just works. I know exactly how it's going to work. I know what it's going to do, and it's more steel than most of us are going to need for anything we ever use it for. I know it's fun to delve into super, new, cool, whatever, but it works for exactly what we want it to do.
Yeah,
there's something to be said about that.
Tom's like, boring.
And Don Hanson W2.
I like W2 a lot.
Yeah. Don Hanson W2.
I've got a bunch of it.
Me too. Still, it's awesome. But I just hold on to it.
Yep.
I got my guess about what Sean is going to say for this one.
Mm-hmm.
Does it start with 3 and end with V?
It do.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Man, it's my favorite. It's like when they sat down to lay out what they wanted that steel to do. They said, well, how would Sean like this steel to perform? And by God, they did it.
WWSKD.
3V is an amazing steel. What hardness do you run it, Sean?
Dude, I generally try to shoot for around 58, 59 because I'm going for toughness on it. I mean, I shoot for toughness
tough
on everything.
already.
And I want to squeeze every bit of toughness out of it I can get because I've had people do retarded fucking shit with my knives.
Yeah, I go.
You go for the high range on it, don't you? High tempering range.
Yeah. I temper at 1,000.
Yeah, I shoot for 62 with 3V.
Whew.
And to be honest with you, I shoot for like 58, 59 with everything. I would rather have toughness and the ability to get a easier edge touch up. I don't need it to be hard as a wedding dick. Because
if you're using A2, you should put it in at 60 then, because 60 is the sweet point of toughness and edge resistance.
Actually, I think that's where I try to hit with that going by, shit. Where did I read that?
60 is the sweet spot on A2. I used to do 58 because I thought it would be tougher. It's not. It's not as tough as it is at 60. It's a weird dichotomy with A2 right there.
Well, that's the thing with 3V. At 59, that's its sweet spot. That's where you get everything just kind of balanced just fucking right.
So you just like wasting sanding belts, huh?
Well, yeah. They ain't expensive or nothing.
Stuff's like grinding glass, and you're basically making Scotch-Brite pads at the bottom of your feet.
Yeah.
3V is not hard to grind.
What are you talking about?
Dude,
that stuff sucks to grind.
Really?
Yeah, then you try to hand rub it, and you're just like, well, this is not... No,
I would much rather grind.
I didn't say anything about hand rubbing.
I would much rather grind something like S35 or CPM 154. They do grind. They're more agreeable.
Yes. Yeah, you can feel it catching on the 154.
Do you ever grind any CPM 110V?
No.
S90V?
No, I don't like S90V.
Yeah, I fucked with some 90 once.
10V and M4 are hard to grind. 3V isn't too bad.
No. I'm not one of those guys that's going to go out and try every flavor. I know what I like. I know it works. I stick with 1095 quite a bit. I know exactly what it does. I know when I start grinding if it's a bad batch or something's weird. It's going to be shit. I like sticking by my ways.
Yeah, I get that.
I did get some ABL though.
Yeah,
for some thin kitchen knife stuff though.
But see, that's what the beauty of all the different steels. I have certain standards or favorites, but some of the other steels for hard specific uses like M4, man, that stuff cuts forever. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I don't know. It's kind of fun. There's certain stuff I won't use, but I don't know.
What won't you use?
Probably not going to do SM 100 ever again.
Oh, why'd you have to go there, Tom?
Well, Birch asked.
True story. Yeah, me neither.
I just don't feel that it's a good good. The only thing that I think it would be good for is maybe a dive knife or something like that. And then my issue is the brittleness. So I don't know. It's pretty and whatever, but
it just curved. I don't like it. It curved all over the place.
I kept it straight, but the whole reason is why, especially with the new nitrogen steels coming out, there's no reason. To me, SM100 is a pain in the ass to work. It's literally ridiculous. And
it is.
Then it's the wear resistance is poor and it's brittle. So I mean, why? Other than it's cool and it's edgy and people think it's awesome, but they don't know anything about it.
Well, I don't even think it's even. I mean, this was 5 years ago, and that was kind of the thing. And the whole idea was, ooh, look at the pretty colors you can get with it, and that was pretty much it.
Well, and the corrosion, corrosion resistance to me was the big thing that was awesome about it because it's titanium. But
well, yeah, or go with Stellite or whatever. But I mean, even Stellite's kind of like
Stellite you can't get really right now. It's pretty hard. I mean, you can, but it's gotten tougher to find. Talonite, same thing. I'm being serious. The new nitrogen steels, I think, are going to be unbelievable.
Well, I tried to get that Nitro V stuff.
I think they're all sold out right now.
Yeah, I couldn't get any. The Dammit Core stuff has a nitrogen steel.
Yeah, I'm using. I just sent off some, so I've got a bar of Nitro V to cut up, and I was going to get some more because I hate to send out 15 or 20 blades for a heat treat. I'd rather send 100. But I've got Z Finite from Alpha, and it's a nitrogen steel, same kind of thing. And I've got I think 100 and some blades out for heat treat right now.
I heat treated 3 blades yesterday.
Well, I mean, you've done more work than me because I just dropped them in the mail.
Oh no, I don't know about that guy.
But we've got some 1084.
Now, did you put your 100 blades?
What's that?
On your bicycle? Did you put them in your bicycle basket?
Well, today I did. Yeah, I took 195 blades to the post office on the back of my bike. I sent a batch of 1095 out.
He's like
Peters.
He's like the Wicked Witch of the West with the basket on the bicycle and tornado coming 100 blades at a time.
I need one on the front and a little dog all around.
Flying monkeys.
There's got to be some people in Gentry that see Tom around and like, that dude's a bit weird. Who the fuck
is that guy?
Yeah, but eccentric is cool, right? I mean, I don't know. There's weirder people in Gentry, I'm sure. I hope.
Oh, I'd imagine.
I'm sure so.
I could hear the facepalm when Tom said, I don't really want to send him out unless it's for 100 blades. I could hear the Birch facepalm all the way up in Michigan.
Well, I mean,
oh yeah.
If you're doing a few, it makes sense to heat treat them in the shop. And if I'm doing something like 1084, we'll do that in the shop. But if I have enough of them, it just makes sense to send them off. And Peters is, I believe Peters is the best in the industry. And, I've been using them for a long time and they treat me right.
I think Tom's trying to get a discount on his next heat treat batch. I think that's what just happened.
Yeah. Can we say Peters one more time? Get that.
You want to throw a phone number out there, Tom? 800 number or something?
You just made it weird. Say Peters one more time. Whatever.
Now Tom's going to pay extra.
Tom likes Peters.
See?
All right. What's our next question?
Let's see. What is our next question?
Speaking of Peters.
Does Tom like Peters heat treat?
Who is the best heat treat house in the game?
Oh, man.
Written in by Tom Crine.
I almost got edited again. I'm good, though.
Yeah. This is a good one. Our friend Bravo, Mr. Brian Bloom asked the question, how much time do you allow yourself for web time each day?
Too much.
All of it.
I can do whatever I want, Brian.
I like that.
I'm a grown-ass man. I do what I want.
I don't know. Allow ourselves? I don't know. I try not to, but we kind of have to, too. So it's sort of a weird mix.
Yeah, it all depends on what's going on. If I've got a sale thread up or if I've got, we got to field questions all the time. If I got 20 questions, it's going to take more time than if I have none, obviously. But, and I try not to get caught into the Facebook or USN dark hole where you follow some threads and pretty soon you're 2 hours in. I feel that the good podcasts and audiobooks help with that, because if I'm music, if I'm bored, I'm much more likely to come in the office and get on the computer and fall into a hole for an hour.
Tom needs actual good podcasts, not shitty ones like ours.
Yeah.
True.
The T2 podcast.
Sponsored by Peter's Heat Treat.
Thank
That's
you.
a pretty good idea.
D2 Cast, episode 1.
I'd have like no followers.
Right,
Great.
right.
Peters.
So one of the things that's kind of hooked to that Brian asked about was, I think there was some concern a while ago. A bunch of things have sort of shifted over to social media, right? To Facebook and Instagram. And there have been some concerns that maybe social media may get significantly less friendly to things like knives. And that could cause problems given the amount of traffic and people and activity that we have going today on things like Facebook or Instagram. So what do you guys think about that? Or Brian's question was, do you have concerns or do you have a contingency plan, or where are you at on that?
I worry about Facebook and Instagram just as a whole in general, as far as just business. I often wonder about, my group or whatever, because it's only the people in the group that can see it, and you're not really adding to it. Like I said before, it's a room with closed windows. So it's kind of like doing business with only the people that can see it, which is sort of bad business to begin with. And it does get a bit scary thinking about that they can just shut it down, and then, you're going to have to do something different.
Like a podcast.
Well, but a home base.
No, it is a little bit scary.
I feel like we're just wandering around without a home anymore. Kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't, it's not something that keeps me up at night, if that makes sense. It's something I have thought about a little bit and decided that at the time it's really not worth me burning energy there. So as far as contingency plans, I don't really have any. I figure as an industry, if something happens, we will come up with something at that time.
Yeah. That's pretty much my take on it. I don't think about it because it's a waste of my thought process right now, because it's not a reality. If it becomes a reality, well, then we'll fucking roll with it,
Somebody will fill the void. Something will. I mean, that's...
Well, even if it's just a shift back to forums, which would be the logical first step.
Oh, yeah. But I don't know. It's interesting to see how that's all played out. But I also think it's part of sort of the problem, though, to me, is just, like I said, there's no, you can't get the information out to the people who don't already want to know the information, like the stuff that went down today, sort of some of that, the McGinnis stuff, if we want to do that. It's like I could say something about it in my group, but if they're in my group, they probably already have the mindset where they don't really need to hear it or see it.
Yeah, well, you're preaching to
so
the
it's
choir.
Like, how do you reach the? Yeah, so it's kind of like, so how do you reach the people who don't know, any better, or don't realize the fallacy of some of that stuff? And so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
So that kind of fits in with one of the questions that we had on our list, right, about naming knives and coming up with a name. So let's talk about that a little bit, and then we can kind of circle back to the thing with Jerry. So what about that? How do you go about choosing a name for your knife models? Do you have a theme? I know, Tom, you have kind of a theme thing going on, or you did with some of your products. Birch, you have a little bit of a theme. I know, Sean, you do too. So you guys want to talk about that a little bit? Michael or Sean, you want to start?
Man, I'll lead in. A lot of guys don't like naming knives. I actually get a kick out of it. And it just sort of happens with me. Like, generally I'll be sitting listening to music, and a line from a song or just a word from a song will stand out to me, and there you go. I got a knife name.
Damn.
Yeah, that word seems to work pretty well.
Yeah, man, it's the way I know.
Name some after... They're good names.
Well, thank you.
And you've got sort of like the dark theme going, so you get to have some cool names too.
Damn straight.
You get all the awesome names. I think I just kind of go with some that's been like Clutch songs and a lot of kind of space themed crap, nerd stuff, whatever strikes me.
Hey, now I got a Clutch song named Knife too. That ain't overly nerdy.
Oh yeah. Well, some of the stuff is just, like, I don't know, it's just kind of dork stuff. And one was named a Tangent because it was a tangent off of another knife, just kind of random sort of stuff. It was I named one that was a hybrid because it was a hybrid of another version. So I kind of had to quit doing that and give them real names.
But for sure,
yeah.
It's maybe this is true for all things Birch, but it's definitely some thought process involved.
Oh God, yeah. You look at it, and sometimes I'll talk to you and be like, "What's that look like?" Or
there's some hand wringing.
I'm not feeling extra nerdy. Yeah, what do you got? But by God, when you do, you think of a name, you go looking, make sure no one has it.
Right.
That's step one, and it's pretty easy search.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy, and there's bound to be crossover and stuff like that. But do your best to not stick with someone's. Don't name something the XM18,
right?
Or something that's obviously a popular model or something like that.
Yeah,
the XM19 sound. That's what you should do.
Yeah,
it's one better.
XT18.5.
So what about you with naming knives, Tom?
Man, I think that's probably the hardest thing for me to do ever. I mean, and I've, with the canine stuff, I came up with that, and I've kind of had the dog names, the Dingo and stuff like that. But it's tough for me when I started out. Bob Dozier, I worked for him. He had the the naming system. It was numbers, so it was the DK Dozier knives, 2 or whatever. So, that's where I learned. So I started with the TK, which is Tom Crine.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah. 1, 2, and then I realized that, after multiple years, that's probably not a good idea because people are confused and it makes them confused. So then I went back and added some names to that stuff, and some of my design names are pretty stupid. Looking back, and I've never been super inspired when it comes to that sometimes. I've got a knife called a recurve. It's a recurve.
Well, truth in advertising, by God. I like how you're up front with it.
I was going to be all kind of be like, man, you don't have stupid names, but
it's okay. I know. Yeah. Well, I've got some better names, like I came up with the Vagabond because I felt it was kind of the Navaja was kind of my inspiration, and I went with the gypsies and synonyms and used the thesaurus and stuff. But yeah,
that's a good one. I like that one.
Yeah, I like it.
It's the Vagabond, and then off of that came the Gitano, which is a name for the Romani people, and the Nomad is a smaller version. Stuff like that. I feel like have gotten a little bit better, but at first, man, I was a total failure.
But you don't have any like death throbbers or anything like that?
You got your fucking death throbber.
I do not have a death.
You don't want to hear a really stupid knife name. I made a knife right before. I'll make new shit all the time because that's how I am. But then I'll be like, oh shit, I got to name it. And I had one for TKI. And this was real stupid. And I was like, shit, I got to write a name down. Like I was at TKI and had to write a name down on my little thing. And I called it Tiki.
TKI.
Added a fucking I. Which I think turned into the Genesis or something. But, man. Yeah. I was like,
you should probably not have told that story.
Yeah. I try not to.
That's a super cool name.
I try not to go with like things, death or like the husband killer or what none of that kind of crap, because all the gun magazines in the 80s were totally against that kind of stuff. So for legal defenses and whatnot.
So basically you name everything the opposite of what Sean names it.
No, he's not saying that he's like calling it the Pig Killer or anything like that. It's just they have a darker feel, right?
An overtone.
Yeah.
And
So you feel like that's something that if you get stabbed with something called like a pleasure cloud, it's not going to hurt as bad.
No, I think that.
Are you talking about
if
like
you stab someone and your knife is called the
Bag Lady Killer to
the assassin or some kind of bullshit like that, then they're going to be much more likely to be like, well, you're carrying something nefarious.
Oh yeah, I always wondered about that too, because that was a big don't name them anything like that. But I wonder if that's ever come up.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It made sense to me, so I kind of stuck with it.
It did. It does make sense.
Like you said, that's straight 80s gun mag kind of stuff.
Right?
Mhm.
It really is.
But it's also just
common sense.
It's also very overplayed, sort of, to be like, okay, this is the assassin, or I don't know, it's just kind of a. But I can't. I mean, I can't say much. So we've all got our themes and stuff. Sometimes they make more sense than others. Mine are just kind of all over the place and whatever happened to feel like that day.
I've actually got names that I'm waiting for a design cool enough to stick them on.
Nice.
That's pretty awesome.
Is it the Death Robber? Because that's taken.
Well, the number one that's in my head is The Bleeding. It's one of my favorite albums, and it's just completely brutal from beginning to end. One of the greatest, if not the greatest, death metal albums of all time. And I want to name a knife The Bleeding, but it's got to be as badass as that fucking song is.
You got 2 weeks.
I don't think I've come up with anything like that yet.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everybody else is bleeding.
Yeah.
Let them. They won't be able to carry it like I can.
There you go.
It was named here first, folks.
My only competition is fucking death.
So,
okay, so we're done there, I guess, right? How do you top that?
Yeah, I'm not sure where you go from there. So there was a thing that by the time this comes out, it'll be a little bit later, but there was a thing that happened today or within the last day or so, right?
Couple days, yeah.
With Jerry McGinnis, a friend of ours, listener of the show. Jerry has these, I don't know, it's probably accurate to call them mid-tech line, right? Called the Pro line.
Well, that's why he gave them a whole different name, because they weren't mid-techs.
So explain what they are then.
They're basically what I'm doing now. Him and his dad make them in-house. They send the blades off to Larkin. So it's not really, since they're making them, they can't really call it a mid-tech. And that's kind of where I'm at now. That's why I just called it the V4. Because how do you call something that you make yourself a mid-tech? And I think that's why they came up with that name for it.
You should probably trademark MeTech.
I don't know if I'll be going with that one.
Okay. I mean, you're missing out. We've already established I'm great at naming stuff.
So this goes back to the conversation about trying to choose a name that's unique. And if someone else has used it, you should probably talk to them about it, right?
Yeah, at least talk to them.
Yeah.
Well,
talk to
them.
And
if you're not aware of it and then they approach you, I mean, be kind of magnanimous, I guess, and change.
Yeah.
It's just a fucking name.
Well, okay. So then it turned into sort of a, big internet sort of thing, which happens probably more often than it should, where it turns into anymore this weird thing of, okay, if a name isn't trademarked, then it's okay for anyone to take. And that's not what it's all about. I mean, this is a knife community. It should just be somebody's already using it. Let me go try to do my own thing, which I think was the whole point of this thing was, hey, I'm already calling it that. Maybe look for something different. The fellow didn't want to move off of that and was like, oh, it's not trademarked. But I mean, that's not the point.
But it sounds like,
somewhere
after all the hubbub, he's going to move off of it, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think after there was a whole bunch of...
Be smart about this up front.
Well, I don't know. There's room enough for everybody in here, but it is a community, and a lot of my best friends are knife makers, and there's a reason for that. Is because of how we kind of all got into it. It wasn't about competition. It was about being courteous to each other. It was about honoring each other. and what someone else is doing. If someone's doing something and that it's kind of their thing, like Horton does chisel grinds. I don't do much chisel grinding because that's sort of his thing. Did he invent chisel grinds? No, but it's still his thing. If somebody's doing something, you kind of stay away from it. The same goes with names and designs and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I made a knife that I thought the handle looked a little bit familiar to somebody else. So I got a hold of them. And they were like, no, I don't think so, or whatever. But if he said, oh, well, I think so, no, I wasn't going to make that knife. It's just the way to do it.
No, I know that you and I have had that conversation both ways.
Yeah.
I've talked to you about, like, I drew this up and I think it looks, to me, it's pinging a little like you. Am I off? And you've done the same with me.
Yeah. But it shouldn't be about legality. It should just be about doing the right thing.
100%.
Yeah.
And I hate that we're going more into this such a big business sort of mentality of, oh, well, if I can make money at it, it's okay. Instead of just being like, oh, it's the right thing to do. So, or, the wrong thing to do. So I won't do it. I don't know. It was just kind of a sad to see sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But then it turned into sort of so now we're upset about names now. You turn into that someone shouldn't be upset that, about just a name, but
it devolves and everything becomes muddied from the original point.
Yeah.
It's counterproductive at that point.
It very much
ever
is.
Productive in the first fucking place.
Well, no, then it turns into sort of who can have the most, followers say something, or
yeah. Your standard pissing contest.
Yeah, look the most honorable, and truthfully, just do the right thing. Look around, be respectful. There's a lot of respect that comes and goes in this community. It'd do a lot better if you were building up your respect chips and not using them.
Yeah. Well, and a little bit of due diligence goes a long way.
It really does. I mean, what do you think about this, Mark? You're being quiet over there.
No, yes, I agree with the situation. In the end, the person in question, said, hey, out of respect to McGinnis Knives, we're not going to use the name. And that's good. I think the heartburn was that it took a while to get there, maybe longer than some folks thought it should. But
would he have done that if there wasn't such an outcry?
Well, it didn't sound like it. That was kind of the real initial issue, I think, right?
Yep.
So
yeah, I think that was the kind of the problem.
Yeah, like you said, there's room for stuff. I know this whole thing is a very sticky conversation, whether it gets into handle shapes or blade shapes or, like you mentioned earlier, Michael, grind style or other stuff, right? I mean, there's not, I don't know. It all gets back to mutual respect, I think, in the end, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what we're getting at. Yes, everything's been done a million ways and different, and no one's going to trademark knife and no one can say that, it gets that kind of.
What about Sam Lai?
But it's just same sort of situation.
So
but
dumb.
In the end, just respect each other. I mean, there's room for everybody here. Let's make this a better community. Let's not devolve it.
Yeah. Well, it appears to be resolved at this point. Hopefully it actually is. And the social media gang warfare, whatever thing, can settle down and we get back to business, right?
Oh, yeah. It just kind of sucks that you're kind of sitting there and you get dragged into something you have really no part of.
Well, yeah.
Just kind of, but that's the internet these days. It just, you can get sucked into something without even trying to be.
Right.
Oh, man.
So mutual respect. That's what all gets back to.
Yes.
Do the right thing.
Don't be a cunt.
Yeah. That's what we needed to hear.
That too. Okay. What else we got on the list here? This is a good one. And I think we talked about this in the Maker intro episodes, but Kyle G on Instagram asked the question, what keeps you interested in making knives? And the follow on is, what major failures have you had in the shop? So let's start with the first part first. I know Michael he's motivated by trying new things and and working some ideas out of his head. Is that a fair assessment, Michael?
That's pretty damn good. I like to play around. I get something stuck in my head and I get itchy and weird until I can get it out. I'd say that's some sort of weird compulsion, the way I said that there.
Oh, it is.
It's yeah. But yeah, I mean, just the fact that you can make something that's in your head and actually make a tangible piece of functional art is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can do it and somebody else likes it and will pay you is even cooler. So yeah, I mean, that shit gets you going.
How about you, Sean? What keeps you interested in making knives?
I hope to someday get good at it.
There you go.
I mean, really, that's the long and the short of it. I want to get good at making knives, and that's why I keep doing it. I'm trying to get a little better with every damn one.
I like that.
I mean, it's just the way I look at it.
How about you, Tom?
Man, I've had this love affair with knives going on forever. I mean, when I was like 2 or 3, 4, I drew knives and guns. My mom freaked out. That's what I liked, you know. I'm as long as I can remember back, that was it. I love coming in my shop and taking a chunk of a bar of steel and some handle material that's in slabs and being able to make a functional tool that someone can depend on. It's bespoke, you know. It's better than what you can buy at the store. And to me, that's what, I mean, it just keeps me going. I love getting these tools out to people, you know. The fact that they like it, you know, like the stuff and are willing to pay cash money and collect them, it's pretty awesome.
That was like the cooler version of my answer. You bastard.
Sorry.
I like it.
But yeah, I mean, I love knives. I love everything about it. The knife, it's, you know, it's one of our first tools, and it does everything. It can be weapon, it can be tool, it can be in between, it can be both. So,
well, and one of the interesting things about being a person who walks into a shop and makes something that you want to make, it's a fairly unique occupation, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, like for me as an engineer, you know, when I was a young engineer, when I finished my day and I was on my drive home thinking, you know, I had a pretty long drive home because I worked far away for a long time. And on my drive home, I would kind of assess for myself, what did I actually get done today? And it was not hard to figure it out because I ran a bunch of tests, or I, you know, solved some problem, or I came up with an idea that I was going to go back the next day and, you know, work with some machinist guys to come up with parts that might fix an issue. And then later on, you know, like when I became a manager, it was a different thing because now it wasn't me that was creating solutions. It was me helping a team create solutions. And it gets a lot harder for people to connect the dots between what I actually touched today and something that's real. Right. And I think the vast majority of people in the population have jobs where they're not making things per se, right? Or if they are making things working in a factory, they're not things that maybe they really particularly care about, right? They're putting something together, like making a washing machine, or who knows, right? Assembling something that's not necessarily something they could hold up at the end of the day and say, hey, look at that. I did that. That's really cool. So you guys have a unique situation with what you do, and, you know, lots of things that go along with that, but
we're living the dream.
Mm-hmm.
At least our dream.
Yeah.
So the other half of Kyle G's question was, what major failures have you had in the shop?
How much time you got?
Yeah. What I mean, how you want us to list this off? I mean, like, what kind of failures? Because we've got all sorts of failures.
I mean, a failure that brought blood, a failure that brought tears, maybe one that brought both.
You could write an Instagram message at Kyle_G, or you could take a shot at picking one. So maybe pick an example that you think ended up in retrospect being slightly funny, or something that was heartbreaking, or something you think people might connect with that are listening along with us.
Man, the first time I fucked up a Damascus blade grinding it, that was a heartbreaker. Did not care for that. But now there's so many under the bridge, I don't even care anymore.
Yeah. So the heartbreak, Sean, was because the material was expensive or because it was so pretty and you hated to ruin it, or all of the above?
That, man, I'm not worried about the price on it. It's my time and effort that I've put in and then losing it.
Yeah.
And it not coming to fruition the way I wanted it to. That's what gets me.
How about you, Tom? You got an example?
Sure. So here's one that brought blood. One of the things I did a while back was I put handles on Spyderco mules. So I would fit handles up. And one day I was had one and was hand sanding it, and apparently I wasn't paying attention. I slipped off the handle, and those are razor sharp. They're sharp from the factory, and I slid my hand down the blade until it hit the vise, and that did a pretty good job on me.
Yikes!
I'd imagine.
Yeah, that was not one of my favorite times. One of the more embarrassing times was somebody sent me a Tom Mayo 6K Stellite boot knife to regrind. He had messed up the blade somehow. It was pretty messed up, and somebody asked me to fix it, and so I was regrinding it for him, and it caught on the buffer when I was almost done, and it threw it down, hit the floor, bent the blade, and I had to contact Tom Mayo to make another one because I had to replace it. So that was pretty shameful.
Ouch.
Yeah, that is a bummer.
Yeah.
Mayo Stellite boot knife. That's a cool piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a really cool piece.
It was a cool piece.
Probably an older piece, wasn't it? The Stellite boot knives were popular in 79, 80, 81?
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah.
Because, that was a thing, the Stellite boot knife, for a while.
That was a cool piece.
I feel like Tom's done talking about this.
You were brave for sharing, my friend.
His heart weeps just remembering it. How about you, Birch? You want to throw an example out there?
I've been messing up a bunch of blade grinds, just general heartache sort of stuff. It's the usual, but then when it comes a pile, you're like, that kind of sucks. And it's all sorts of different steels. But yeah, I guess my Zerk fire not long ago kind of sucked pretty hard.
That stuff,
kind of a wake up call.
Stuff is scary.
Then rust and everything in my shop the next day. That was like, well, kick me while I'm down.
And it rusted because of the fire extinguisher chemicals.
Yeah.
The fire extinguisher. Yeah.
So the same thing that kept your shop from burning down wrecked your day for a while.
Yeah, wrecked my next day.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, that was good times.
All right, so I think we got time for one more. And this is a good one that I think, this is a knife maker question, but I think other people will find it, collectors will find it interesting too. And it's about your maker's mark, how you came up with your mark, and what are some favorite marks that other guys use that you think are really, really cool. So Sean, you want to talk a little bit about your mark?
Well, the logo I use now is basically an evolved form of my first logo, and that was put together for me by dude's been my best friend since kindergarten. We've known each other a long time. He's a talented graphic artist, and he threw together some examples for me, 20 years ago, and we picked the one that I used for years and years, and it just got revamped a little bit along the way to make it more stencil friendly, less small lettering and all of that stuff.
So for people that might not be familiar with it, your mark is sort of like
if they're not familiar with it, fuck them.
Well, yeah.
I'm kidding.
It's a circle with the K in the center, but then there's like little forks coming off the north, south, east, west points.
Yeah, right? Yeah. It's kind of compass pointed like that, and it's open, so it kind of looks like horns in a circle sort of thing.
Nice. And do you have a mark that you like that someone else uses that you think is real cool?
Drawing a blank. I actually like Michael's with the dragon head.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. Woo!
He went from something about Mary to being the mark guy.
That's right. I'm moving on up.
So where did that come from, Michael? Your Birch Tree Blade Works mark with the dragon?
Actually, it's something I drew when I was in college. A strange little tribal type of thing. And I've actually got that tattooed on my back. It's two of those heads facing two different ways and down to like one body sort of thing. And then when I started making knives, it just seemed sort of natural. And the birch tree was sort of a nickname that I had. So it just kind of all came together.
Nice. So your mark is based on your tramp stamp.
Yeah, it's a tramp stamp right there, you know.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite mark of somebody else's or some that you thought were cool?
I like to shoot it right back to Kendrick. Just because he got one for me, I'm going to send one back to him.
Oh, boy.
Reciprocity.
Glad handing.
Homos.
Hey, buddy, you can get in on it.
There's still time, Tom.
I like your logo too, buddy.
There's lots of cool logos. I like Bob T's logo. I think that's pretty cool. Anything that's sort of,
Bob T's logo is badass.
Yeah, I mean, anything like that. I always thought the Almar one was cool.
How about the Loveless Naked Lady?
Yes.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that's got to be the all-time best.
Well, man, the classic is the Naked Lady front, Naked Lady back, where you get her front and her back. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very cool. You know who's got a really nice stylized logo is Mayo. His logo, I think, is very cool. Like the M with the circle or the oval with the, I don't know, just the whole stylized thing it's very clean.
It's just good, solid logo.
Yeah, it's clean.
It's clean. It stands out. You remember it.
It goes with his knives that are very, very clean. And
exactly.
Yeah, it's a good mix.
Yep.
Rinaldi used to have a cool one too.
Yeah, the diamond trace. Well, no, Blackwood had the gargoyle one that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Blackwood. I wasn't thinking Trace. Now he had a cool one, but yeah, the Blackwood was a cool one too.
Neil made a good knife.
No, man, I'll tell you, my son Kane has a cool logo. It's kind of runic and it suits where he's coming from and it works for him and it's a nice design.
Cool.
Kane's is very cool as well.
I don't know if I can picture that in my head. I'm going to have to look that up.
Yeah, I don't know what it looks like. I'll have to look it up.
Where did Kane's come from? Did Jeff do that or somebody else?
Long did it. Long Wind did it.
Oh, yeah. Very nice.
Oh, yeah. He knocked it out. He took Kane's interest and just made him a very usable, brandable logo.
It is. It's very well done. What about you, Tom?
So, yeah, I've always been into the American Pit Bull Terriers and kind of what that breed is about. You know, there's not actually a breed standard for the American Pit Bull Terrier. It's all about ability. Kind of that whole form follows function, and that's what I want. That's what I want for my knives, and so that's why I chose that. And I felt it was distinctive, and it, I was trying to come up with a logo that I felt would stand out a little bit. Also, at the time I was around Paul Bosch a lot, and he was like, "You got to have your name on there, not just a picture or something like that." Because a lot of old makers, it's hard to identify their knives because they would have a logo that didn't have their name or something like that on it.
Yeah, it would just be a mark.
Yeah.
Like,
and
like an owl on a tree branch.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I went with the name. I like, I'd worked for Bob Dozier. He has a circular logo, and I liked how that fit on a blade grind. And so I wanted to go with a circular logo, and I decided to start putting the date very early on. I played with some different logos early on. There's like one or two knives where I have a rectangular type logo. There's one or two knives with that on it.
Nice.
Kind of like the Morisseth logo with the date on either end. And I didn't like that as well as the circular logo. Now, recently I've come and started doing another rectangular one just because on the smaller knives, when I do a Scandi, the standard logo won't fit. So that will work on the smaller Scandi ground stuff. But I go back and forth all the time on the date. I've chose to keep it, and I change it every year. Sometimes it's kind of a bad thing for me, but the customers seem to really like it. Like right now, I basically shut my folder shop down for about the last year. I haven't made very many folders at all, which I'm just almost finished having a new folder area in the shop built, so we can start making some more. But I started going through the boxes because I boxed every folder up and the parts up, and I've got 2 folders that are basically finished, except they have a 2017 date on them, and I'm just like, crap. And there's no way I can take them off, so I'll probably just sell them in the group as new old stock or something like that,
Time machine folders, Tom. Time machine.
I think that's a really cool idea.
Give the story that's provenance to go along with it, and there you go.
I wish I'd done that, truthfully.
It makes it easier to date collections, and people, buy them when they have like Barry just bought 2 and they have the date for when his son was bought. So he has an identical one for him and an identical one for his son, and they're marked with the year. So that's kind of cool, stuff like that. And you can really easy tell when they were made in time. And it's interesting to look back and be able to look at the progression.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
It's cool. Yep. I like it.
So
my very first one was a M. Birch. Forgot about that one.
A what?
M. Birch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I used to do that.
Well, I did T. Crine on the very first ones, and it was typed on a little stencil paper.
I tried doing that, making my own stencil stuff, and I actually made quite a few with the old light box and the material and stuff, and they were not cool.
They all suck. I've got the little stuff you can put in a typewriter. I still actually have a manual typewriter in the shop just for that under the counter, which those are hard to find.
He's got it mounted to the handlebars of his bike.
No, I don't.
See, we were teasing you about that earlier, and you acted like we were crazy. What are you talking about, old typewriter? Now it comes out.
I'm gonna have to zip tie it on there now and get a picture at least.
So for the folks at home, sometimes you can hear Tom clacking away in the background in his old typewriter during the show. No, yeah, exactly.
With their Sailor Jerry tattoos and his handlebar mustache.
He's got his
great keyboard.
He's got his typewriter converted to a IBM standard keyboard.
This is a great keyboard, man. The DOS clicky.
Oh boy. More product placement. Top to bottom, man. He doesn't miss a beat.
I don't understand the purpose of a keyboard that wants to be annoying on purpose.
It just gives you feedback, dude. There's nobody else in here but me.
The feedback is what you're writing. I mean, that's the feedback you need. You can see it.
The keyboard's talking to him, man.
You can type much faster with the clicky keys. At least I can.
Oh boy.
Well, it's true. I mean, otherwise, I bought a cheap one and I was like, this sucks. Because there's no feedback. You can't even rest your fingers on the keys hardly, and they start typing letters.
That's been our keyboard segment.
Yeah. All right. So next week on Keyboard Chat,
we're going to
talk about the Mavis Beacon series of videos.
We're going to talk about the letter D and the number 2.
And off in the background, if you could hear the sound of certain letters typing, it would be P, E, T. Okay, so we're actually kind of starting to run a little long. So we talked a little bit about what's going on in the shop. I know, Michael Birch, you got a big old stack of blades you're cutting down there.
Oh, God. Talk about production. Production is boring, guys. Can I tell you that? I know it's...
I thought you said you were enjoying Instagram.
No, I've looked at all of Instagram, the last couple of days, because the cycle to cut the tab off and basically chamfer the other side of the blade takes like 5 minutes. So I've got like 5 minutes, and I've already cleaned it and Windexed, my CNC and all this stuff. So I basically just stand there and wait. And if a tool breaks during it, it's going to suck. So I've got to stand there and watch and wait. So I basically just look at Instagram or Facebook or whatever. But the project's moving along. But yeah, it's a big ass project. I hopefully get the
how many blades are you doing?
I've got 240 something blades here. I'll probably send off 230 or something, maybe 220. I want some to be able to, hand grind and play around with the stuff myself.
Tom's like, oh, so like a small batch?
Yeah, a day's work, basically.
That's 20 hours of nonstop 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's been a lot.
The big brain on Mr. Crine over there doing the math.
I got a computer right here, man.
Oh, yeah. So, we have a lot of machinist, knife maker kind of people that listen to the show, and all of them are screaming, pulling their hair out right now. 5 minutes cycle time.
Oh, I'm sure. But it's interesting when you're doing this type of production because you actually see your workflow and stuff. And this is basically the last op, and you sit there and you stare at it and you look at your fixturing and you try to maximize the efficiency out of what you can have that machine do, but you want it to be done right. So if something takes a little bit longer, but it's done right, I'm okay with it.
Yeah. And it saves you a lot of time down the road.
Exactly.
Finish time. That's a win.
I don't want errors down the road. So, and there's going to be some, but I want to minimize them. So it's been very interesting and it's also a great way to see like end mills, what works right, what works, when you have a constant, you can really start playing with speeds and feeds. Then it's kind of fun. But the actual just staring at it actually gave me a headache today, just staring at my machine and my phone.
You got an Instagram headache.
Yeah, I got an Instagram headache. Yeah, I did.
Exactly.
But at least it wasn't my big old iPad.
Yeah. It's like you drank a Slurpee too fast.
Pretty much.
You got Instagram brain freeze.
Productivity gives me a headache.
It's bad for my health. Yeah. Sean, what about you?
I got my heat treat oven back up and running, got some blades heat treated, so I got stuff in the works. It's all smoke banshees this time. Funny how it worked out. Normally it's a hodgepodge of different stuff, but it's all smoke banshees. So
very cool.
That's what I'm going to be working on for the foreseeable future.
Cool.
3V? What blades were you doing?
Let's see, 2 Damascus, 2 3V.
Ooh.
Nice, man.
Nice.
You were working on a little knife too, right?
Yeah, I still got to grind it. I got to get the sack up to grind it. I've owned the third blade in that guy, and when I got the third blade locked and detinted and got the swedge ground, I set it aside and was like, I'll grind a couple blades a day or two before I try to grind this guy again, just so I know that I'm in practice at least a little bit.
Right.
I've had a blade I need to grind for. I don't need to, but I wanted to for G10 or whatever, and I just have not been. I've been annoyed by the grinder. It's been annoyed by me, and I've just been like, I don't want to grind you. So it's just been sitting there for like.
You've already got knives for G10?
Obviously not. I mean, I just got a blade that I'm afraid to grind.
It's not an actual knife.
Yeah.
I don't have anything started. I got to get busy.
Well, the distance between started and finish is a lot longer, it seems, for me than for some of your stuff. You were much quicker.
Yeah.
So how about you, Tom? You're working on shop stuff, right? Getting things lined up in the shop.
Yeah. We're trying to get some different workspaces going and trying to keep some knives going out in the meantime. So yeah, we're doing a lot of fixed blades, a couple folders, and that's it.
So upcoming show and event stuff. I think the next show is G10, right? That's the next one kind of on the list.
Yeah, I think I saw something that said it was like 50 days away.
Yeah, it's closer than it seems.
That may have been a few days ago.
You didn't get your bullshit clock, did you?
I did. I don't have it set up yet, but it's going to be awesome.
Oh, you're going to get it set up like 4 days before the show.
Well, it's for any show. It's not just for G10. It's going to be part of my office redo.
Did we talk about that on the last episode, the countdown clock?
The bullshit clock is what it's called.
So. It's going to be awesome, man.
all-seeing eye of harassment hanging on the wall, looking at me.
Judging your...
I like to think of it as an anxiety concentration device.
Yes.
It shoots out a directed beam of concentration.
Oh, straight into your cortex. Yeah.
Of, anxiety. Yeah. So one of the new show that just happened was the Northwest Hand-Built Invitational out in Portland. And so Jade Marsh, I think, put that show on, I assume, kind of in conjunction with the Starling Gear guys. And by all accounts, that was a great show. Unfortunately, I did not make it out to it. And I know you guys were not there, but I've heard nothing but good things about it. I know it was small. They're kind of just getting it started, but definitely one I got to try to check out next year when they have it.
Yeah.
It looked like a good time.
Oh, yeah. I think those little invitationals and smaller shows are kind of pretty fun.
I think we're going to see more of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the way of the future, actually. You're going to see more regional, more small stuff.
It's almost like a pop-up show or something almost, like a sale or whatever. I think it's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a neat idea. I like it. All right, so the next up is episode 16. I don't know. Do we want to say what 16 is going to be? Probably not just yet, right?
Nah, let's keep the anticipation up. I think it's going to be something everybody's going to enjoy.
Yeah, episode 16 we know people are going to like, and it's going to be an interview. I think we can go so far as to say that. And we'll announce a little bit later on who exactly is going to be on, but it should be pretty cool.
It'll be Mr. D2.
I'm on the show every time.
It'll be Peter Peters from Peter's Heat Treat.
You guys playing with anything cool or got anything cool in the mail or anything like that?
I got a new Randall.
Oh,
got one of the little combat companions. I think it's a pretty cool knife, and got a new Spyderco that I'm carrying, which is the little PPT. I like it quite a bit.
Nice.
That's it.
Is that an eBay purchase, the Randall?
No, I got it from a dealer. Chris Stanback.
Oh, okay.
Captain Chris.
He had it in stock. Yeah, Captain Chris.
Nice.
Really, really easy to deal with, and got a good price on it. He put stuff up, I think, at Randall catalog prices. So yeah, really, really good stuff.
How about you, Birch?
Got a new phone in. That's about it.
Did you get another 10?
Yeah.
I need one of those. That's such a nice phone.
I just sent one back in.
Boy.
So I can get a refurbished one?
I don't know what I got now, but it works.
Don't blow our opportunity for an iPhone 10 product placement deal with some kind of rant.
Not waterproof.
No matter what they say.
Michael went on vacation, got a little bit of water inside his, I'm using air quotes, water resistant phone. He was not happy about it.
No, IP67 rating, not so much.
Well, yeah, you dropped it in a couple inches of water, right?
Well, I actually quenched it in an inch of water. It was really hot.
Yeah. It was 8,000 degrees and it turned itself off. It was so hot.
But Colin and I really wanted to time ourselves holding our breath underwater. So shit had to be done.
Well, yeah, it should have still been water.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, it's.
I read people about people taking pictures underwater with it.
Well, yeah, it's supposed to be 1 meter for 30 minutes or something. But it was. I mean, I've had it for a bit. I'm sure it's been dropped. I've got kids. Who knows?
Yeah.
And it got super hot right before it got wet.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of condensation that probably just sucked it right in.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I've used mine underwater before and it's been fine, but
either way, it sucked.
Yes, I get it.
What were you using it for underwater?
Me?
Mark?
Just seeing if it could do it.
I was hoping for something much more lascivious.
Yeah.
But
No, yeah, I wish. No, just playing around with it is pretty cool. Like, look at that. It actually does work underwater. What about you, Sean? Are you playing with anything or did you get anything cool this week?
let's see. I got a new breaker for my panel in the shop, and I got a new relay for the heat treat oven and new coils. So
That's exciting.
Nice.
that's what I've got in.
Back in business.
Yeah, exactly.
Did they fall out of their stuffing and touch each other and short out like usual?
They're always out and touching at this point. Dude, it sucked. I was so close to what I thought was having it squared away. I was getting ready to run a test fire to see if it would run without kicking the breaker, and the fucking coil popped.
Oh, man. I don't use...
Yeah, so there ain't no checking it until I get a new coil in and all that shit, and I was out. Normally I have at least 2 sitting on the shelf, and there were none, so...
How much do those coils cost, man?
For the 22.5, they're $55 each.
Ouch.
That's the exact same one that I have that gave me the exact problems that we've talked about. Same model.
And you got it for the same reason.
Yeah, I'm going to make some big-ass knives.
So you could do swords.
Look at me go.
Short sword.
Make some machetes.
This is the biggest kiln I can get at the time.
Bam. Folders.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I've been playing with one of Andy Frankart's little single finger knucks. It's got a bunch of his stamps all over it, and I don't know, I'm just spinning on my finger. These things are cool. We're gonna have Andy on the show here a little ways down the road whenever he's got some time and talk about his whole thing, because his product and his following and everything else has been a very interesting story to watch. So we'll get Andy on to join us in a little bit.
He'd have an interesting view on collecting also.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt. He's got an excellent, pretty fantastic collection.
Very cool, guys. I think this was a fun episode.
That's awesome.
I enjoyed it.
It was good to get to some of those questions that we hadn't been able to get to. Seems like our shows run longer than we've been intending to and haven't been able to get to them.
Yeah, we put together a show outline when we get together to record these things, and usually there's a section on that says panel Q&A time permitting, and usually we end up shooting the shit long enough that we don't ever actually get to the Q&A, so we knocked a bunch of them out tonight. We still got about half of them or more, so we'll do some Q&A on down the road again, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Heck yeah.
All right, well, I think that wraps it up for episode 15. Thanks, everybody, as always, for listening. We appreciate all your feedback and talking to us in the Facebook group for Mark of the Maker and on our Instagram account. And we always appreciate iTunes reviews. So if you listen to the show and you enjoyed it, please hit us with an iTunes review. That helps us get a little bit more visibility on iTunes. When people search for knife stuff, they'll find us. And I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. And if you continue to send in questions if you have them, and we'll try to get to them or have another show like this down the road.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank y'all.
To learn more about our makers, you can find Tom Crine on the web at crineknives.net, in his Facebook group, Crine Knives, or in his Instagram account at Crine Knives. For Michael Birch, check birchtreeblades.com, Facebook group Birch Tree Blade Works, or Michael's Instagram at birchtreeblades. For myself and the Raygun Bead Project, we're on the web at raygundivision.com. We have a Facebook group called Raygun Division, or my personal Instagram at msteiner. For those interested in photos, references from the show, or some discussion about the show itself, you can find us on the web at markofthemaker.com, in a Facebook group called Mark of the Maker, or on our Instagram at Mark of the Maker. Last but not least, the ultra cool and haunting background music we use for the show is a piece called Noir Guitar by Stevie's Amp Shack, found at the Free Music Archive and licensed under Creative Commons CC BY 4.0. Thanks for listening.